Hello, my name's Alexis Quinn, and this is.
I am Kathy Harding, clinical psychologist.
And we're here to talk about challenging behaviour is a trauma response.
And we're having this discussion not because we think we know all the answers to that, but because we just wanted to share some of our thoughts and see what others think and generate discussion about that area.
So, Kathy, how do we understand challenging behaviour? Is it a trauma response?
Well, I guess traditionally people have understood challenging behaviour as a response to people's environment or things that can be observed externally. But what we've been talking a lot about, Alexis, isn't it, is the idea that we know that trauma presents in a range of ways which are very similar to what people refer to as challenging behaviour. And so that idea that people's external behavioural presentation might actually be related to something, to their internal trauma responses, both in terms of neurobiologically and subjectively.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like one of the key things is that, almost every aspect of my life, I think, can sometimes like feel traumatic. And I'm just thinking back to like when I was very, very young, like being really averse to like certain smells, and almost developing, a phobia, of some items of food. And then those things, because they're healthy, kind of being pushed on me. That's just one example. But also like interpersonally, like so much sort of like microaggressions that kind of build up and build up and build up. And it leads to this like sort of massive reaction sometimes. So I think, for people really sort of would be helpful for them to know that there's a massive minority stress associated with being autistic or having a learning disability. And so increasingly it's being recognized that reactions to that are potentially trauma responses.
And so what should people do about that once there's been an acceptance that behaviours that challenge our trauma responses? How should people respond differently?
I think with curiosity, and kindness, and I know that sort of sounds really, really simple, but I think it's just having that felt understanding of what's going on for the person, and then really trying to sort of behave in ways which are kind and curious, and which prioritize connection, rather than just focusing on, oh, that's this behavior, it's this behavior again, how can we kind of get rid of that? Because it then all we're doing is being reactive to the symptom rather than understanding what's really going on.
Yeah, and how people can be curious to that internal experience. So to be curious about what might be going on for this person that is resulting in this behavioural presentation, but long before that, thinking about some of those elements of ensuring people feel safe and connected with people, and that they're in relationship with people that are interested in them.
Yeah, and I think in my work, like when I'm sort of like working with people who are like highly traumatized and like when they're neurodivergent, it's also just sitting with the anxieties and the fears that people are bringing up and just not trying to move on too quickly. I think that's a really powerful kind of thing to do with people, is to acknowledge actually that's a really fear-inducing thing, that's a really stressful thing, that's a really anxiety-provoking thing, and not just dismissing it like, oh, that's nothing, because it's then, isn't it, that it kind of builds up and it like gets very for me, I experience it as very sort of painful inside, and I'm sort of searching for like a safe haven or some kind of connection where that can, one, be shared, but two, be expressed, and then the third thing is making sense of it.
Yeah, acknowledging it and verbalizing it, helping people do that, but also just being with it, being with people in that is really helpful, isn't it?
Absolutely. So thank you for listening to our first episode of Principles into Practice. Challenging behaviour is a trauma response.